all week. It points to last Sunday's lesson when we talked about going to the other side. Mark 6, verse 45. Mark 6 and 45 tells us a unique story where Jesus gives a command to his disciples. Elements of the story suggest unbelief as the element of struggle in the storm. If you just read Mark 6 and 45 down to the conclusion of that story, 52, you would think that unbelief was the reason for the struggle in the storm. But further analysis requires that we look at the storm through a person's life. See, here we are now getting a close-up encounter. It's one thing to look at the story, but it's another thing to look at the story through the life of one who is transformed by the story. In other words, if I asked you what happened last week down the street, and you go by what you heard on the radio, that does not tell me the whole story. But if so-and-so was there, and they open their mouth and start to talk about it, you get another whole component of the story from their experience because they were there. So, because we have chosen Peter as our character this week to look at with transformation, then we must now look at not just Mark 6, because Mark 6 does not make mention of Peter. Mark 6 just simply says Jesus told the disciples, get in the boat, go to the other side. He went to pray. At midnight they were in the middle of the water struggling. Jesus came down out of the mountain, was walking past them and saw them struggling and said, it's me, don't be afraid. Got in the boat calmed down, and they went to the other side. Don't nobody mention Peter. But if you go over to Matthew chapter 14, Matthew chapter 14 tells us something here. It gives us more details to help us understand the reason for the storm. Just like in the other story, Jesus sends the disciples ahead of him with the command, get into the ship and go to the other side while he announced a benediction. And he goes to pray. Keep in mind, prior to this, he has fed the thousands of people with just a few loaves of bread and fish, and he used the disciples to do it. And so there's a lot of popularity around them now. The disciples are feeling pretty good about themselves because they were the ones walking around displaying what God can do. They're just telling, break off a piece, break off some fish. And everywhere they went, there was more than enough. So they were starting to feel like God was using them. You know how you do when God is using you. You even walk different when God is using you. Some of you start looking different when God, you get that stare. When God is using you. When did you get that? That's the sign. Uh-oh, something coming. God is using you. Okay. And so they were starting to feel good about themselves. So Jesus says, I'm going to dismiss the crowd. You go to the other side. Y'all with me? So imagine now how they all feel. Now remember now here, according to this version, Peter was amongst them. Now put yourself in the mind of Peter if that's hard to do. Just take a moment and think about it now. You'll cuss folk out in a moment, fight in a moment, be boastful, open your big mouth in a moment. So you know he felt